So I think your camera's rotated, Desmond.
Oh, is it? So what
Yeah.
should I do? Put it other way? Like this?
Is there no as in your camera flip?
You mean like this? I don't know, I can't see myself, man.
Try putting in your camera at the front, like front facing camera.
I see what you mean. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
this is
okay,
better.
can. Yep, can.
Ah, jeez, man, this is so weird. Okay.
No problem. Okay, so welcome everyone. Today we have with us Desmond from Gentlebros, who's the co-founder and the artist for Gentlebros. If you have any questions during this fireside chat, you can put them in the Zoom chat. And if you're too shy and want to ask it anonymously, you can also put it in, like you can also directly message me in Zoom. So I guess first off we can start with is Desmond, what gave you the spark and inspiration to start making games in the first place?
Okay, so basically it started when I was really young in secondary school, right? And actually even further back in primary school. So I knew I've always wanted to be in game development, right? So at first I actually was thinking of becoming a games journalist because I thought, then I could just play games all day, right? So that was really fun. But I think it was after playing Metal Gear for the very first time, Metal Gear Solid. I knew, I wanted to, instead of playing games all day, I wanted to actually make games because games, it's the only medium that I think combines interactivity, storytelling, and play all in one, right? So I knew it was something I wanted to do. The emotions the game actually made me feel, the fun I had playing the game. I wanted to be able to create something that someone else could also similarly feel, right? So that's pretty much what started it all. And I'm still a huge fan of his games nowadays. So really excited about what he has coming up for Death Stranding 2 and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. So I assume everyone here has at least heard about Cat Quest and Cat Quest 2
I hope
and how
so.
and how it's been fantastic. I actually have been playing Cat Quest and Cat Quest 2 the moment I heard of it. It's a
Oh,
it's a
okay.
very interesting game. Can you share with
Thank you.
me how in the first place you created the idea for Cat Quest?
Okay, so it was the outcome of a whole lot of iteration, right? So coming right after our very first game as a company, right, was our first game was Slashy Hero. So coming right off that, we knew we wanted to make something completely different, and we knew we wanted to make something based on cats, lah, right? Because we felt cats, the internet loves cats, everyone in the company, we love cats, right? So making a game about something that everybody already loves kind of helps us win half the battle already, in a sense, right? But the very first iteration of this supposed cat game was really different, right? It was actually a dancing game where you would copy the moves of like your opponent and things like that. It was slightly multiplayer, and that was the general idea. But after some prototyping, it didn't work out. We iterated much more, right? We tried many different genres, many different ideas, and eventually, we had the idea of doing Skyrim with cats, right? So basically, an open world RPG where you play as a cat and you go on this epic adventure to kind of save the world, right? So that's kind of how Cat Quest came about.
Oh, that's yeah. Thanks for sharing about that. So I know that you are. Oh, wait, is there a question in the chat? Okay, so there is a question in the chat. So what's your favorite game in recent memory?
Oh, my favorite game in recent memory. I mean, right now, it's gotta be Witcher, right? Because I think that game kind of redefined a lot of storytelling, a lot of modern day open world RPG design, right? But I really love stuff like God of War as well. Hades is really awesome. There's just so many games to pick from. It's really hard to choose one. But yeah, so I think all these games have done something really great for the industry. But I think really, if you were to ask me what was my favorite game in recent memory, it has to be Witcher 3. Like I have it as my desktop background because I just love the game so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. The Witcher 3 is a fantastic game. It was my first triple A game actually, like
Oh
in
wow.
recent times. Yeah, yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So if let's say someone would want to enter the indie scene themselves,
Hmm.
as a indie developer, whether it's fresh out of school or after some experience, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I mean, if you want to start your own indie company, right? There's nothing stopping you, right? A lot of games nowadays can be made by yourself or with a very small team, right? Engines like Unity and stuff like that is all very readily available and it's very easy to use. Platforms like Steam is very easy for you to get your game out there. So yeah, if you just want to get inside the games industry, making a game is a really good start, right? If you're looking to get a job within the industry, going to school, going to the right school is very important because the right school will have the right connections and faculty that can help you get the job, right? In the companies you want to go to, right? So there are many indie studios in Singapore. Gentlebros is one of them. There's Mighty Bear, there's Battle Brew, right? So all these are great companies to actually go in and start making indie games and things like that. But yeah, so the industry is really flexible, it's really free and easy. We hire people based on how much passion that we see them having in indie development because fresh out of school, you can choose to join a AAA studio like Ubisoft or an indie studio like ours, right? So why would someone want to do that? So it's really what kind of working environment you're looking for, right? In a bigger company, your everything's more organized. It's more hierarchical based, right? But when you're working in an indie company, it feels more like a family. It's a really small team. Everyone has a lot of very important contribution to the game. So that could be something that you might want to actually show that you want when applying for indie studios as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Those nuggets of advice and nuggets of wisdom. Just a reminder, if you all have any questions, you can also put it in the chat. Yes, so there's a question in Zoom chat. What is it like having to pivot your game once you saw it wasn't working
Oh,
for the early prototypes?
right. I mean, you have to have the right mindset, right? Like you're at a stage where you're ready to make things that might not work, right? So when you have to pivot, when you have to throw away everything, it's completely fine, right? So like out of all the iterations that led up to Cat Quest, we threw away everything actually. Like when we started Cat Quest, we realized there was really nothing that we could reuse. So it's obviously it's not a great feeling because you've spent months working on these prototypes. You spend a lot of time creating all these art assets, programming everything to make it work, and only to realize it doesn't. But I think that's where the mindset comes in. You have to be in the correct mindset of like making something knowing that it might not work out, right? And that's all part of the process. So I mean, even after you've nailed the idea and you've started work on the game in general, things may still pivot, right? Like the mechanic that you thought worked might not in the end, right? And you have to be ready to continuously iterate on things, throw things away, and make things anew. So even for Cat Quest, the really when we first started on the Cat Quest games proper, the control scheme was completely different, right? It was more of a point and click adventure, right? Where you click on where you want to go, your character would slowly walk to that location, and random battles would occur off screen. It was really one of those like point and click adventure type games, right? So we quickly realized that didn't work when we tested it, and that's just game development. So it's a sucky feeling, but it's something that you have to get used to, and you have to be in the constant mindset of having like everything you make. It's always be ready to throw it away, right? So I think once you have that mindset, it's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have another question.
Sure.
So as an artist, Cat Quest does have a
Mm,
bouncy dynamic to it, and the art
mm,
style is very colorful and cute. So,
mm,
what inspired such aesthetics, and does this
mm.
limit any potential ideas that came about?
So I mean, the prime aesthetics really came from wanting to make something super inviting, right? Super appealing for people that have not necessarily played games a lot, because that was the audience that we were gunning for, right? We wanted to make a game that was super accessible. It couldn't be too dark, it couldn't be too overwhelming or too serious, because we wanted families to play it, right? So that in itself kind of meant that we have to choose an art style that was more colorful, more cute, more family friendly in nature, right? Um, and we were really heavily inspired by things like Studio Ghibli, Final Fantasy, right? The older ones, the retro graphics where everyone was like chibi hits, and stuff like that. And as to whether it limited our creativity, I don't think it did, right? Because if you play the Cat Quest games, there are some really really dark stuff inside as well. But we did it in a way that it was cute, right? So like for example, there's a quest line where this crazy cat was literally like eating other cats in a sense. So it's really really dark stuff. But we did it in a way where it was funny. It was cute. It was still very colorful, right? So I think being limited is not really something that we felt we had to be subjected to. It's more about rethinking things in a different space, right? It's like, how do we take something that is otherwise usually really dark, right? And how do we make it colorful? How do we make it cute? And I think that's where the creativity comes in, and the fun part of making games lah, in general. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We have one more question in chat. Are there any problems with online collaboration, such as on GitHub?
Uh,
Because one can be skilled individually, but face problems when working together with any collaboration software.
sure. Yeah. Definitely. Right. So just taking all these collaboration softwares on its own, there's definitely a good starting point to have, right? But oftentimes, especially with GitHub, working with other artists, especially, right? When more than one person is working on the same scene, right? Or well, more than one person is working on the same art asset or the same character that has multiple parts to it, right? It's very easy to have your work conflict, right? And constantly trying to resolve stuff. So a big part of actually a big part of our development is creating pipelines to ensure conflicts won't happen, right? So we spend a lot of time building scenes in such a way where multiple people can work on it at the same time without conflict, right? And a lot of things like that, right? So definitely these things are problems that can be solved, and it should be solved, right? Because you're working as a team now. You're not really working as a solo developer. It's just really changing your mindset and thinking about things in a way about how do I program things, or how do I code things, how do I draw things or create characters in a way where multiple people could work on the same thing at the same time without interfering with everyone else, right? So that's kind of the mindset you have to have when going into a project like this. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat. I guess another branching off question to this is how, with
Yeah.
the recent COVID pandemic, how does that affected your company in any way?
Oh, actually, it didn't really affect us that much in terms of workflow. We predominantly work from home to begin with, right? So even before COVID started, we were already adopting kind of like a 3-3-2 working environment, where we work 3 days at home and 2 days in the office. So we were already very used to that. We have all the pipelines ready to go. We were very comfortable working in WhatsApp, having Zoom, having video calls with each other, basically making games completely isolated and remotely. Like, we were already very used to doing that. So when COVID hit, we basically just got rid of the office in a sense, and just worked from home 24/7 for like 2 years. I think it was almost around that time. Then when things started getting back to normal, we got the office again. So now we're back to doing that 3-2 thing. So yeah, COVID didn't really affect us that much in terms of workflow. It made some things a little bit more troublesome because we used to put our like the PlayStation 4 dev kits and the Xbox dev kits in the office, right? But we had to move them to our programmer's house. Minor things like that had to be done. But now they're all back in office where they belong. Yeah, so it's great. Like, now we still meet in the office 2 days a week to discuss stuff that we don't normally want to discuss over Zoom calls and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much been our workflow since then. Yeah.
Definitely. We have another question in chat.
Mhm.
As in indie game development studio, have the game developers been caught up to the business side of things? For
Sorry,
example,
what?
do the game developers themselves involve themselves in the business side of things, like finding publishers or funding for assets or equipment?
Of course lah. No, who's gonna do it for you, man? So yeah, so that's the thing that I think a lot of people aren't prepared for when they become indie developers. And it's a really great question, by the way, because I was actually hoping someone would have asked this, because there's a lot of other things that go inside starting your own indie company. A lot of legal things, right? A lot of tax-based things, and yeah, the business side of stuff, right? Looking for publishers, looking for partners, not just publishers, but quality assurance, testers, right? Working with musicians, composers, contractors, porting houses, right? All these things are stuff that you have to do as an indie developer, right? On top of making a game, right? So it's super tough. I'm not gonna lie, right? It's a lot of things that you're gonna have to do, and a lot of things you're gonna have to learn in order to start a successful indie business, right? So like for example, just like a story that I remember, like when we first started the company, we didn't even know really know how CPF worked from the employer side of the point of view, right? Like we before that we were employees, right? We've always gotten CPF, but like how does it work from the employer side of things, right? Like when we had to pay corporate tax, how did that work? How much did we have to pay? Drafting contracts, right? We can't write our own contracts because we're not lawyers, right? So we had to find a lawyer to help us get all this done. There's a lot of things, right? And it's something that you have to be prepared to learn and make mistakes with when starting your own indie company. Yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I guess on this note, were there any special touches that you think that CatQuest has that make it different from other RPGs out in the market now?
Wow, I mean that's it's a really tough question to answer because we do have our idea of why it was successful, and the small little touches that we made that we felt set it apart from the rest. But we can't exactly say for sure if these were the things that people enjoyed about the game or what actually made it special to everyone, right? So on our end, all I can say is that from the get-go, we knew we wanted to make a game that we liked, right? We wanted to take all the stuff that we loved from games that we grew up playing, like Zelda, Final Fantasy, all this, and cram it all into a super accessible package. From the get-go, we wanted to basically, the mantra was take all the bloated mechanics of RPGs nowadays and condense it into something super simple that practically anyone could understand, right? So that was our main focus, right? So right down to getting loot, right? In Cat Quest, normally in games you get a lot of duplicated loot, right? You get like the claws of Mephisto, and then you get the claws of Mephisto with fire, right? So there's a lot of different junk that you get, and a lot of it you don't use. So we wanted to streamline that whole system. When you get a duplicate, the items in Cat Quest literally just stack on top of each other and level up, right? So it's super simple. It does everything for the player. There's no wastage of items and stuff like that. Everything in the game, from the combat, it's really easy to understand, from the magic spells and everything, right? So I feel for one, like perhaps it's the accessibility and the accessible and inviting nature of the game that resonated with people. It's really easy to get into and play for a couple minutes or many hours, and it has really fun and addictive gameplay with the leveling up and stuff like that. But whether this is the thing that actually made everyone like Cat Quest, I can't say it, right? And I think every developer feels the same way. Like when something becomes successful, we're like always like, why? Like what is it about this game that actually worked, right, with people? So yeah.
Definitely. We have another question in chat. Was there any trouble balancing between trying to find a niche in the game space, versus creating something you yourselves would like to play? Because with the intense amount of games coming out almost every day, how would you try and get this balance so that you create something that you like to play and versus something that will stand out among the crowd?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think every developer kind of struggles with this because on one hand, there's always a game that you want to make, right? Like because you're probably inspired by something you played when you were young, like, Chrono Trigger or whatever, right? But on the other hand, also there's there's kind of like that business side of things, right? Like what is kind of like that hook in your game that's gonna help you market the game in the future. Because making a game that you want to make, but if it ends up being something super generic and there's like 10,000 clones out there, right? It's going to be really hard to sell, correct? So a lot of the times is walking that fine balance of making something that you want to make and that you have passion for making, but also trying to fill kind of like a gap you see in the market, in the sense, right? So for us, that gap that we saw was RPGs are too bloated, right? We want to make something super simplified, super accessible, and really narrow focus, right? Like how much can we shave off the RPG design to its core root, to its core potential, and what kind of game could come out of that? Because we hadn't really seen anything really like that in the market yet, right? And on our end, we really wanted to make an RPG about cats. So that's kind of where that's kind of how we landed on this idea for Cat Quest. And even if you were to look at other games out in the market, like really successful games, like for example Hades, right? The Hades is a roguelite, right? But what it does really special is because before Hades, a lot of roguelites didn't really have great storytelling, right? It was really you're just going through the motion of going to the dungeon over and over again. There's really light storytelling, not many cool characters. And I think the developers of Hades, they came in and said, hey, man, we really want to make a roguelite, right? We have a really cool combat system in mind. But we haven't really seen any roguelite to strong storytelling. And for that company, right, storytelling is their forte, right? For all the games before that had really strong storytelling, like Bastion and everything like that. So combining what they did well with a genre they wanted to make created something super special. So I guess for everyone thinking of working on the next game, always definitely start off with like what you want to make, what you think could be special. Like what you want to make first, like what makes you excited, right, to play, and try to look at what hasn't been done yet, like what could be the hook of your game that will make people hear about the mechanic or the concept and go like, wow, shit, I want to try that. It sounds cool, right? Nothing else hadn't really done yet, right? So I think starting like that could be a pretty good method to hopefully create something successful. Yeah.
Definitely. Yep. If anyone else has any more questions in the chat, we can take around one or two more questions. And I guess another question we can ask, I want to ask is,
Yeah.
are there any features that you had trouble with during the game development phase?
Wow, it's so hard to pinpoint that down because there's constantly problems, right? Every day there's like a new fire to put out. Yeah, it's honestly all a blur right now. Thinking back on it, I can't really think of a single one, but I think that's really important to know also, right? Like in game development, anything that can go wrong would go wrong, right? In a sense. So the thing you'll be doing the most in game development, no matter what position you are in the company, is actually problem solving, right? Whether you're an artist or a designer or whatever, there's always some problem that's making the game not work, right? Maybe it's performing badly, maybe it's not fun, and then that's a problem you have to solve, right? But I think overall, probably the most challenging aspect that, especially with the first cat quest, was like finding that formula, was like finding the right balance of design and fun and challenge so that it's fun for a really wide audience, right? So nailing that balance was really tough. Like we had to go through a lot of testing, a lot of iteration. Yeah, it was finding that balance. I think was the most difficult for the first cat quest, and I think every game has its challenge, because for cat quest 2, we had the formula. We knew what the formula was because we just did cat quest 1, right? But cat quest 2 had its own problems. Like cat quest 2 had local cooperative play, right? So how would a whole game that was initially designed for one person, now how will it work for 2 people, right? Everything had to be rethought. Even right down to how players open chests, right? That had to be rethought, right? Because like, what if one player opened the chest? Would the other player be able to still attack an enemy, or should his game pause as well, right? So there's all these things that we had to solve. Usually the solution you have at first usually isn't the final one, right? Once you start testing it with people, you realize, oh shit, people think like that. It's totally different from how you thought they would play it, and things like that. Yeah, so man, it's game development is really tough. I don't know why you all are doing this. You should all go do something else. Kidding. Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely would say that passion would drive us through. So what's a feature that you wanted to include the most, but weren't able to include because the game didn't fit well with it, or with technical limitations?
Oh, I think it's different for every game, and I wouldn't really say it's a technical limitation, because right now, even handphones are pretty powerful already, right? For like the kind of game that we're making, it's pretty easy to fit most things onto these devices. So technical limitation not so much, but time limitation is the main problem that every developer has, right? So I think if we had infinite time in the world, anyone could make like the perfect game, and but we don't, right? That's the problem. We have a limited development cycle of a couple of years at the most, because eventually we'll need to launch the product, because if not, we won't be able to make money, right? So you need to know when to say enough is enough. And I think that always means a lot of features that we wanted to initially put in has to be cut from the game. I think one that I've always wanted to put in for like many games now, but still could not manage to, is like kind of like a relationship system, in a sense, with all the NPCs. Like how you would like interact with like one of the side characters, and then based on your interaction, like a heart icon pop up, and then you raise their relationship with them, and like the friendlier you are, the more friends you are with them, the more benefits you get. They'll join you in battle, whatever, stuff like that. I've always wanted to have a system like that, because I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed stuff like that in other games. But yeah, it's a huge system. Man, like all the things you need to do to even get it to a decent place. Yeah, we've always ended up not doing it. Yeah, but hopefully can in the future. Hopefully, yeah.
Oh, we have another question related to this. I think this should be our last question. What are some ideas that were abandoned in the development phase, and which one do you feel was the saddest to let go?
Oh, oof. Abandoned in the development phase. Let me think. I mean, there were so many things, man, like from different weapon types to different enemies to even like dungeon designs. But I think one that we really thought we could put in, and we were so sure that we could put it in an update. We actually made the building for that. It was a kind of like a Colosseum kind of thing, right? Because we wanted players to go in, like, fight waves of monsters endlessly. So it was something fun that players could do as a side, right? So we couldn't get it in for launch, I remember, but we thought, okay, we sure can get it in a patch or like the next update, right? So we actually left the building there in the game there, like there is that whole structure there, and then we just put like a sign there saying not open yet, right? Like literally it wasn't open yet, like the we just never got around to doing it. It's like so the building is still there in the game. It does nothing, right? So I think that's really the saddest part, because there's just like a useless building in the game now that literally just says not open, right? Yeah, yikes, man. So yeah, maybe hopefully one day when we like go back and like remaster the original Cat Quest, we could actually make this. But yeah, so I guess this is a lesson to us as well. Like, don't go putting things in games that, don't assume you're gonna go get around to doing it, right? So always assume it's not gonna happen if it's not gonna happen, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have just one last question. Have you considered
Sure.
adding any modding capability for your games?
Wow, yeah, we've always wanted to, we just don't really know how, so I think it's something that we probably need to research on. But yeah, I love modding, right? I love it when people mod games like Skyrim, Witcher, all this. I love downloading mods, especially mods that change the character, gives new items, right? Improves the graphics, because Skyrim definitely needs its graphics to be improved, stuff like that. I wish we could do it for Cat Quest, because I think modding basically increases the lifespan of a game, right? If people could mod a game to be more what they like, it definitely improves their experience with the game. And I think we're all about player accessibility, right? We want players to be able to play the game in a way that they want to, right? So I think modding is great. If we can figure out how to do it, definitely. Yeah. So love it, and hope to be able to do it one day if we can.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. I guess to end off, do you have any inspiring words you would like to share with aspiring game developers?
Oh, inspiring words. Man, I'm really bad at this. But I think the one thing you're gonna need to have, right, is a really strong desire to do this, because there's gonna be a lot of times in your career where things will feel really, really, really tough, right? And you're gonna want to give up, so having that tenacity to not give up and to keep pushing on, I think is really, really very important. I think it's because I've seen so many developers that just couldn't continue after one or two mishaps, right? And not to their fault, right? It's a really tough industry. So I think it's not really shit. And I'm not being very inspiring. It's actually quite demotivating in the end. but yeah. So I'm trying to be realistic here, right? So like, I think you guys, especially a lot of you fresh graduating. It's actually, are you guys graduating? I don't know. Anyway, once you get on the industry, there's a lot of things, especially if you want to start your own indie company, it's going to be really tough lah. So don't give up, right? It's all going to, if you keep pushing and you keep doing what you love, your games are going to resonate with people. And there's so many more opportunities now than when we started, that if one door closes, three more would open, right? You just got to be ready to see what those doors are and grab those opportunities when they appear. All right. So yeah, hopefully, you guys don't quit the industry because of what I just said.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone, please give a round of applause or react for Desmond from Gentlebros. And buy Cat Quest also. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks so.
please. And
hopefully
Cat
Quest 3.
yes, hopefully. And yeah, so when you're fresh out of school, you guys need internships. We offer those. So yeah, please do reach out to us. Always happy to meet new and passionate individuals. And yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me. Sorry for the weird setup. There was like
Yeah,
construction going on in my office. And then we just had to do something like this. Yeah. As a
Yeah.
quick thing.
Yeah, no
Cool.
problem. All right. So finally, the password for the over the lucky draw on the website is catquested in upper camelcase. You can see it on the screen now. You can log into our website gamecraft.nusgg.org and key in this password, and you will stand an extra chance to win in our lucky draw in our closing ceremony. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and thank you Desmond once again.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Play Cat
Bye-bye.
Quest. Bye bye.
Yes, bye-bye. Yeah, I shall leave the password on the screen for anyone who wants to take note, and the Zoom room will close in around 5 minutes. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining.